For years, people passed by that land and did not understand what they were seeing. A gigantic area being prepared, stones being removed, roots pulled out, the ground level with almost obsessive care. There was no river. There was no sea. There was not even a sign of rain in that ancient world. Even so, Noah kept going. God had been clear, not with vague ideas, not with symbols hard to interpret, but with exact measurements, precise, impossible to ignore. Hundreds of meters in length, 3 complete levels. A structure designed to withstand something that had never happened in the history of humanity. And everything began with what almost no one notices: the ground. A project of that size could not be built just anywhere. The soil needed to be firm, stable, strong enough to support tons of wood. But there was a silent problem. Before the flood, the earth was constantly moistened by a mist that rose from the ground itself, that made the terrain treacherous, unstable, easily turned into mud. Without machines, without modern tools, Noah had to observe, test, feel the ground with his own feet. He dug simple channels to divert the moisture. He compacted the earth. He prepared the foundation with a patience that only those who fully trust in God can sustain. As he worked, the stares increased. Some laughed, others whispered, but Noah explained nothing, because those who build by faith do not need the approval of those who only believe in what they see. When the ground was finally ready, the most exhausting phase began. The wood, enormous cypress trees, had to be cut down. Heavy, dense, resilient trees. Each one required days of continuous effort, blow after blow, without haste, without giving up. Then came the transport. Giant logs slowly moved with wooden rollers, ropes, and levers, advancing only a few meters at a time, repeating the process hundreds of times. It was slow, exhausting, dangerous work. But with every log that reached the construction site, the ark stopped being just a divine command and began to become reality. The base of the structure required absolute precision. The keel needed to be long, perfectly aligned, capable of supporting the full weight of the hull and the 3 levels. No tree reached that length, so Noah had to join massive beams, one by one, using carefully carved wooden joints. Error was not an option. A single failure that would compromise everything. When the first ribs began to rise, something changed in the landscape. A shape began to emerge. Curved beams rising from the sides, outlining the form of the ark. Stretched ropes served as guides. Stones worked as plumb lines. Every angle was observed with extreme attention. Little by little, the impossible took shape. A colossal structure rose where a sea had never existed. But what alone was not enough. The ark needed to withstand water. And not just any water. God had been specific. Everything had to be sealed inside and out. The pitch, extracted from the earth, was boiled and applied while still hot, layer after layer, covering joints, cracks, fittings, days, weeks, perhaps months, because a single flaw would have been enough to destroy everything. When the ceiling was finished, the ark was no longer just wood. It was a floating fortress. Inside, nothing was left to chance. Compartments were built, smaller divisions organized, designed to maintain order and safety. 3 levels, weight distributed intelligently. The larger animals would stay on the lower level, keeping the center of gravity low. Medium-sized animals on the middle level. The smaller ones and the birds on the upper level closer to ventilation. Food was stored in great quantity. Grains, hay, roots, dried fruits. Everything protected from moisture. Everything organized to last an entire year. The ark was not just a ship. It was a city prepared to survive the end of the known world. And then came the most delicate part. The door. An opening large enough to allow all creatures to enter, but strong enough not to compromise the structure. Reinforced beams, deep joints, A simple system, but extremely resistant. The Bible makes a point of highlighting something extraordinary. Noah built the ark, but it was God who closed the door. And then it happened. The animals came. They were not hunted. They were not forced. They simply came. Pairs emerging from the forest. Birds landing calmly. Predators walking without attacking. Young ones following an instinct they had never learned. When the last one entered, the door was closed, and the earth began to shake. Waters burst from the ground with violence. Then, something never seen before. Rain. The deafening sound of drops striking the wood. The ground disappearing beneath the water. The ark moving for the first time. What seemed like madness became the only refuge. Outside, everything was dying. Inside, life was being preserved. Months passed. Daily work. Silence. Waiting. Until the wind blew. The waters began to recede. The ark came to rest. A dove returned with an olive leaf, the sign of a new beginning. When the door opened again, light flooded the interior. The ancient world had disappeared, but life remained. Noah stepped on the dry ground and built an altar, and God made a promise, never again to destroy all life with waters. In the sky, a colorful bow. In history, an eternal certainty. The ark was not just a boat. It was faith built with human hands. It was obedience transformed into salvation. And it was proof that when God speaks, trusting is never madness. If this story spoke to you, leave your like now. This helps this content reach more people. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos, because this story does not end here. In the next video, you will understand what happened after the flood, how humanity began again, and why the covenant made on that day still echoes today. Click the recommended video and continue this journey.